Okay, good. So we have a quorum of the subcommittee, and so I'm calling us to order. We'll take a roll call attendance. Debbie.
Debbie here.
Carrie.
Carrie present.
And Allison present. So we have two.
Oh, Stephen is here in the outer room. I'm going to add him.
Yay.
Yay.
Can you hear us, Stephen?
I can now.
Good. Thanks. So we have two items on our agenda, and sorry, I forgot to pull it up ahead of time. I don't remember which order they're in. Actually, we have three items. We also wanted to review our minutes. Thanks, Debbie, for sending those along, I think.
Sure.
One of them was titled June 14th, but was actually a duplicate.
I realized, I sent them. They're exactly the same?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So we can review the May 27th tonight.
Okay.
It's really short, so if you haven't had a chance to read it, I'm sure you can skim it right now. I read it. I didn't have any edits.
Yeah, looks good.
I move that we approve our minutes from Thursday, May 27th. Is there a second?
Second.
So moved by McDonald, second by Spitzer, and we'll roll call. Ms. Spitzer.
Spitzer, aye.
Mr. Sullivan.
Sullivan, aye.
Ms. Westmoreland.
Westmoreland, aye.
And McDonald, aye. The minutes are approved unanimously. So we'll look at the June 14th ones at a future meeting. Next up, if it's okay with folks, I thought we could talk quickly about the subcommittee policy, since that probably would be super quick. I will share my screen. I made that couple edits that came up at our meeting. Oops, I need to move it. Are you seeing the?
Oh, let me add it. It's showing up down here now. There we go.
So we had, my notes had two small changes to our policy BDE subcommittees. Instead of committing ourselves to doing it at an annual organizational meeting, to tweak that to give us a little bit of flexibility there. So I just changed that to annually. And then the other one was changing character to charge. Any other edits that we'd like to propose to take back? Oh, I need to change this to 3. Okay, so no other edits, and we can take this back to the full committee. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there were no edits on the other policy.
Okay.
So did any of us have any edits that we wanted to consider for that other BDF, I think is what it was called?
No.
Okay. Okay. Great. So we'll move on to the other policy that we proposed for the vendor diversity and I'm that we have feedback from Ms. Cunningham.
We do. She likes it, except she says she feels it needs to go a step further and require vendors to, rather than just sign a statement that they have a commitment to diversity and equity, she feels they need to actually answer questions around diversity and equity. She did not suggest what the questions would be. And I would think that even if we do decide to go that route and have them answer questions, that probably wouldn't be part of the policy. I assume it would be in policy that they have to answer these questions, and then the questions would be done as by the superintendent's office or by Ms. Cunningham's office. But that was really her only feedback.
Would folks like? Would it be helpful if I shared my screen to see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Debbie, can you broadcast that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So would it be a second item here? So in addition to the language, contract shall include a statement affirming the applicant's commitment to cultural diversity that must be signed by the applicant or their representative.
That's, sorry, it's a bit small on my screen. I have a copy here.
If this is a Google Doc, would you mind putting the link in the chat just so we could look at it in full size on our screen?
It's a Word doc, but I can convert it. I think I can convert it.
Sorry, I'm just having trouble. Or is it an email? I don't think we got it by email.
No, not since the first, not
Okay.
since it was sent out for the last one.
For folks, if anybody's watching this, I will share this with the policy subcommittee and then remove permissions after this meeting so that we don't continue to deliberate on comments.
I think we could make it so we can't even edit it too, where we could just view it.
Right. Good point. So I just put the link in the chat. I'll change the permissions. Okay.
Thank you. Now I can see it.
So it could be, we could put it as another numbered item here.
Right.
Or we could add it as a line in one.
perhaps we could make another numbered point and make what's currently there as number 1, number 2, and prior to that have something about people, any vendor has to complete. I'm trying to think of how to word it.
I'm wondering is this an assessment of their cultural diversity policy? I mean, I feel like it's almost, was that, I didn't have an opportunity to talk with Ms. Westmore, or no, Ms. Cunningham. Like, was she thinking that these questions would be to get at practices? Would they be getting at the, trying to actually get to the core, like if they have a policy, like get to the meat of the policy? Like, I'm just curious about what the questions we're supposed to be assessing.
I'm sorry, Allison.
No, go ahead, Debbie.
I took from what she said at the meeting she attended that I think that if they have already written a policy that outlines their commitment to diversity and equity, I took it that presenting that policy would be fine. But if they don't have a policy, she would like for there to be questions that they can answer to demonstrate that they have a commitment to diversity and equity. I think I would assume that if you're working with a professional organization, an attorney's practice, something like that, they're probably already going to have a statement of their values around diversity and equity. I would think that especially some small companies might not have something like that. And I think those are the ones that she would like to see filling out some questions. She didn't say how many questions. I would think just maybe a couple. I know we have diversity questions on our applications for people who apply for positions in the district. It's been a very long time since I've actually seen how those are written, since I'm not in the HR department, but I think she would probably want something along those lines.
So I took the liberty of adding a suggestion in here so that it says that all invitations for bids and contracts shall include a set of questions and require a statement demonstrating and affirming the applicant vendor's commitment to cultural diversity that must be signed by the applicant or their representative. Maybe it's not require shall include a set of questions.
One reason I was thinking it might be a separate bullet is then we could work in something that says if a vendor or organization already has a statement or policy regarding their commitment to diversity and equity, that must be submitted. In lieu of such a policy, they must answer a set of questions. So it's getting kind of long there. I'm wondering if it should be a separate bullet.
Or we could even have like a 1A and 1B. I could see.
Right, right. That's a good idea too.
It's like a sub bullet for the questions and a sub bullet for the policy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good idea.
But the statement. Shall include, we could have like semicolon 1A something.
The computer is very slow. I type something and it takes it like multiple seconds before it shows up.
I wonder if I edited in my document if it would be faster.
I've hit indent 3 times now and it's not going.
It's probably because you're doing it as a suggestion instead of a direct edit. Once the suggestion is accepted, it'll probably indent.
Nope.
Well, so much for my thoughts there. Huh, I wonder why it's not indented.
Ugh. Okay. What was your suggestion, Debbie?
I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry, I can't read that on the screen.
I think B would be a set of questions. So, okay, in the abs,
There we go.
if the vendor does not have a cultural diversity policy or statement.
Right. And I would think this, if we're going to have this in, it would be A, and the one you already wrote would be B, because what we're going to say is, oh, I see what you're saying. Never mind. In the absence of a statement or policy.
So I wonder if it could be something like the vendor will be required to submit their statement of diversity. I'm not sure what we call it, but some statement of diversity. In the absence of such a statement, the vendor will need to will be required to answer a set of questions assessing the vendor's commitment to cultural diversity.
Yes, that sounds good.
Set of questions.
Assessing the vendor's commitment to cultural diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it should be applicant instead of
Yeah.
We can word. I mean, I feel free to let you edit those types of things.
And instead of just saying in the absence of a statement, this could be in B, it could start out saying the applicant/vendor shall submit their policy or statement, their statement or policy commitment to cultural diversity, period. In the absence of such a statement or policy, the applicant will be required to respond.
So this statement in A is actually that is saying that the district will write the statement,
right,
and include it in the RFPs, and that the applicant has to sign that statement to say that they're committed to that. So
yes, Doreen didn't feel that was a strong enough requirement.
So she wants to see. Did she say she wanted to see a policy? And
she actually, what she said was she thought they should have to answer questions. When we first met with her in our policy subcommittee meeting, she had said she thought they needed to answer questions if they didn't already have a policy.
Got it.
So maybe, I'm just wondering, it feels like, at least my opinion is, it feels like if they have already gone to the trouble of developing their policy or statement around diversity and equity, that shows that they have such a commitment. And I feel that they should be able to submit that as, they should be able to submit that. Doreen may not agree. So I don't know, at what point I don't know at what point we decide how we're going to write it and just turn it over to the full committee.
I mean, I have one thought, which is that if we just make it, the applicant will be required to respond to a set of questions assessing the applicant's commitment to cultural diversity, then Doreen has the liberty to make those questions one, submit a policy, and or a concrete question about the organization's behavior.
Right.
If we take out the submission, then we could leave it more flexible for HR to determine. But I mean, I'm assuming we're going to have to.
One concern I have is this. I don't know how this is going to be enforced. And one thing I think we're going to have to do is, if we decide that, if the school committee looks at this and likes that, and I have no problem with asking them to answer questions, I just think we need to have an attorney look at it to say whether that's something we can require. I would assume we can do business or choose not to do business with whoever.
But can we, if folks are coming in at a lower price? I feel like
that's the other thing.
I think
there's a lot of things that are. Yeah, our hands are tied in a lot of ways. That's my only concern. I know I can see exactly what Doreen's trying to get to here, but this hasn't been passed by Mark Terry, our attorney, and the language that was in bullet number 1 to start with had been passed by Doug Slaughter, and he said that it would fit very well within what we're already doing in some of our our IFBs, invitations for bids, and we could expand it to the RFPs and other contracts without a problem. I don't know about the set of questions piece.
Well, there are yeah, never mind. I was going to say there's state policies regarding supplier diversity that we could adopt that language, but that doesn't get at this. This is different. This is not saying that we're committed to hiring vendors with a diverse staff. We're talking about their commitment to cultural diversity, and this includes individuals, correct?
That was my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding from Doreen was she would like to see this apply to anyone who is contracted to be a vendor for the school. So I don't see this as, when we say applicants, I don't see that as applicants for, say, a teaching job.
Right.
But an applicant to, say, provide vegetables for our food services department, that would include them.
Now, I think this is going to be tricky to, I mean, the question I think really gets to how will we respond if somebody doesn't answer the questions in a way that corresponds with the district's goal. I mean, that's why the nature of the questions actually matter. So say, I'm just totally hypothetical, but like the Supreme Court's rulings recently on in favor of religious liberty around issues, LGBTQ plus, right? So if our statement and the way we're defining it says that, I don't think we're going to get constitutional. I'm hoping we won't, but I'm just putting out there that I could see some ways in which this could potentially be tricky. I don't know. And that's why I think you're right, Debbie, that we'd want to look at, get an opinion from the attorney, just to make
Right.
sure we're not wading into territory where we're going to get in trouble. So like, if we can make this like a strong preference, if we can't make it an actual, like, are there degrees of which we could enforce those, would be follow-up questions with the attorney.
I do feel like the way at least B is phrased right now, it's not actually saying how they need to respond. It just says they have to respond.
Right.
Exactly.
So and it doesn't actually say how that information will be used or whether it will be used. It's just saying that we're going to have these questions and they have to respond.
Right.
No, the implementation is the tricky thing.
Right. And I agree, we should run this by Mark Terry to sort of get sort of make sure that it's worded in a way that gets at the intent without sort of adding layers that we can't enforce.
And honestly, Mark Terry may say he would need to see the questions in order to let us know whether it's something that could be enforced.
I also feel like there may be members of the school committee who would honestly want to know what those questions are before they vote on whether or not the policy. I mean, I have full confidence in Ms. Cunningham, but at the same time, this will go beyond her tenure if it's becoming policy. So it would be curious. I don't know. So there's like this balancing act between wanting to give freedom to folks and also just.
Well, for instance, one thing I would be concerned about is I wouldn't want someone, say, who's a local vendor and a small company to feel like, oh, I don't have much diversity in my staff because I'm small. I won't even bother to apply. They're not going to take me. So somehow I would like to see a way to get at knowing that our vendors share our commitment, but not accidentally discouraging vendors who might feel that they either can't answer those questions the way we would want them answered, and I don't mean that as in they can't answer the way we want them answered because they don't agree with it. I mean, they may feel like, oh, I don't have enough knowledge about cultural diversity to answer these the way I should. I don't know. I just have a little bit of concern.
It does make me wonder if I mean, I'm not against how it's written now, but I mean, one solution to that kind of thing would be having some sort of tiered policy. So like if it's a contract above a certain amount, or like if there's a certain level of professionalism, if you're getting a big contract, if you're a bus vendor versus if you're, the person we're hiring to, like, I don't know, a plumber or something for the, I know we're outsourcing a lot of our, what do we call it?
Our facilities
work. Yes, thank you. So some of those facilities people were contracting with maybe very small, like single person or family level kind of workers, and so that may be harder to enforce. I don't know that.
I'm just wondering if we're overthinking this a little bit.
Probably.
No, because I'm just wondering if we just rephrase A so that it's a little bit more loosely defined as to whether it's a statement that they sign or questions, but rather say, rephrase it so that it encompasses a statement or questions but some way, like that it shall include language to, language that affirms or what was the word that I had before? Not demonstrates, language to
Right.
demonstrate and affirm the applicant's vendors' shared commitment to cultural diversity that must be signed and completed or signed by the applicant or their representative, and just leave it at that, because that, like, or some way to phrase it so that it could be questions or it could be a statement. But what we're getting at is that we're saying that our requests for proposals and invitations to bids have to include a requirement for a demonstrated, that they demonstrate alignment with our district commitment to cultural diversity. How that's in there and how that's implemented doesn't have to necessarily be in the policy, as long as we're saying that there has to be a mechanism within this RFP process to measure that.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So how does that change? So is this the wording that,
Shall,
do we take out the termination language then, or is that?
I had put the termination language in thinking that, I guess without some consequence, it feels like this is a policy with no teeth. But I don't know.
that's the piece that may be wonky, but like all invitations for bids, requests for proposals, and contracts shall include a statement or questions affirming the applicant's vendors conventions. It must be completed and
Should it say a statement or responses to questions affirming? Instead of just questions, responses to questions?
well, the way this is worded is that the statement is our statement. We're giving the statement
Right.
and telling them to sign our statement. So
Right.
their pledge. So
That's why I think it's tricky when we put them together, because if you take out and say questions affirming the applicant's commitment, that doesn't make sense.
okay.
It has to be responses to questions.
And see, the statement that I'm referencing there, the statement affirming the applicant's commitment, is already in our IFBs. So it exists.
And contract shall require the, oops, I did not mean, ugh. The applicant or vendor to demonstrate their,
What if it said to demonstrate in writing their commitment to cultural diversity?
whoops. I
See, but
I guess you know what
there,
I understand her. I understand Doreen's ask for questions, that it should be more, and I find that a little. I'd say it should be either or, because in my mind, if we have a statement and we're requiring people to sign and commit themselves to that, and there's a termination clause around that, that's pretty serious. And I'm not sure that it questions. I mean, it opens up these whole other sort of quite like, well, what are the questions?
right.
Or, so I wonder if it's like by, shall require the applicant and vendor to demonstrate their commitment to cultural diversity by signing a statement or providing information as requested.
See, the signing of the statement she didn't feel was enough. To me, if I were filling out an application to become a vendor for the district, it would feel much more serious to me to sign a statement that says, if we find that you don't hold these beliefs, we're going to terminate your contract.
Right.
That feels much more serious to me than answering some questions that I can make up any answer I want. I don't know.
I mean, either one, you're asking them to just respond in writing about their commitment,
Right.
Whether it's a question where they have to, or a statement that they have to agree to and sign. I mean, I guess the difference is, one is maybe it's, instead of signing a statement, it's providing a statement, because then they have to write it themselves.
Cultural diversity, providing a statement and responding.
By providing a statement. Actually, here. To provide a statement affirming their commitment to cultural diversity.
It's
that way,
almost
that's just saying that they have to write it themselves, and provide that.
And then what about the language allowing termination? So, okay. I mean, do we give them stock language then about the termination language? It's not.
Yeah, I think there's already stock language in our IFBs. I'll double check that with Doug.
Does that work? So it says all IFBs and RFPs and contracts shall require the applicant vendor to provide a statement affirming their commitment to cultural diversity. The IFBs, RFPs, and contracts shall include language allowing termination of the contract if the applicant is found to be in violation of the signed agreement statement. Sorry.
Yeah, so we're really just changing it to have them write the statement instead of us providing it.
Yeah.
In some ways, that allows people who already have a written statement or policy to say, we have that, here it is, and put it in, which I think is good. If they've already done that work, I feel like they should be able to use that as their proof.
Right. If they have the policy already on the books, it's pretty straightforward.
Right.
I think the devil's going to be in the implementation of this. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
you know, I do wonder if, well, it'll be in the implementation, but I could see like potentially somebody coming and saying, like, do you have any guidance on language that you would like to see?
Right. I definitely.
I think that would be a good conversation to have. I mean, that would be a positive thing if people engaged in a conversation with the district about their values.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Values of the district. That's not a bad thing.
The interesting thing will be if someone either refuses to provide the statement or provides a statement that, I mean, I guess I can't imagine someone providing a statement that would be overtly racist or offensive, but I could be surprised if someone did that but came in as the lowest bid. What recourse do we have as a publicly funded organization? So I think that's a question for Mark Terry.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we can. There's, I mean, the purchasing, I don't know if it's guidance laws, whatever, but it says pretty much we have to go with the lowest bid regardless. But it doesn't, they still have to, this is part of their application package, but so it's information if we have two equal bids, I suppose.
Right.
It almost makes me wonder if more what we want is like and I assume we have this, Debbie, I'm kind of looking at you, but it's like, it's more about, in some ways, like obviously we want to engage with vendors who share the same values, but it also sounded from that initial conversation with Doreen, it was almost like there was conduct on the part of vendors that was problematic. And it's almost like that the actual, in practice, we'd like to see a code of conduct and on the part of vendors when they're interacting with our district and staff. I mean, that's probably the wrong term, like code of conduct, but it's almost like that might be, like if somebody signs this statement and then one of their employees is on our campus and does something that's in violation of the statement, like, well, that person was acting as an individual, or were they on part of our, and it's tricky. You'd hate to, I bet companies would be really wary though of losing a contract on the part of one individual's bad behavior. I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be tricky to implement, but if this is what HR, if this meets Doreen's requirements, then I think I'd be happy to give her the tools to do what she wants.
So the question is, do you want me to take it back to Doreen and talk to her about this discussion, or do we want to take it to the full committee and get their input and perhaps invite Doreen to speak at that meeting?
I feel like we should probably ask Mark Terry to weigh in first.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't want, if he would look at this and say, and have some concerns, we'll want to know that when we get to the full committee. Because if we're having these questions right now, did I freeze?
You did.
You are freezing, yes.
We can still hear you just fine, though.
Okay. Yeah, everything's frozen up. Okay. Nothing's clicking.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
So I just feel like we should, the full committee will ask some of these same questions. And so we might as well get them answered ahead of time. And then we can use that to guide our further conversation with the committee and with Doreen.
That's a good idea. I can send it off to Mark tomorrow.
That would be great. So I will send this back, this edit back to you, Debbie.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anything?
Nope.
Uh-oh.
Looks like we lost our.
We lost our leader. She'll be back, I bet.
Yep.
Not back yet.
I could text her if we needed to. We'll give her a minute.
Yeah, I think we're at the end.
Oh, she's texting me. Let's see what she's. And let me ask if there's anything more. All right. I think maybe we should just wrap up.
Okay.
Let me. Do we have to schedule a future meeting?
I was going to say that's housekeeping, so we can do that by email if you guys like.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn the policy subcommittee.
I second.
I don't know if is one of us a vice chair. I think
No. We're just kind of taking it.
So then I'll just say all those in favor.
Don't we have to
Aye.
do roll call?
Oh,
So Spitzer, aye.
Westmoreland, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
All right.
All right, and I'll email you guys and Allison, and we'll find another time.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you,
Thanks.
Steve. Take care.